So yeah, again, I do these videos just to get better with conversation, and just tapping into my voice, right? Because we all as creatives, we all have a way of saying stuff, and sometimes it's not always with the voice, right? Sometimes you might like to paint, sometimes you like to express it through clothing. Um, but being that I run a business on giving advice to younger artists, this is how I have to tap in. So anyway, today I feel like I want to talk about space, right? Space as an artist is super important. This is how we create. We need space, right? You need a blank canvas, you need just the instrumental, to have the most raw form of creativity. You need space. And that's also one of the most toughest things to try to create for yourself as well, because you have to understand that there's a relationship between your physical space that you live in, your mental space, it all relates, and spiritual space as well. So what do I mean by that? Well, first off, let's talk about the physical space, because I feel like that's what people will probably understand best. Let's just say you get up every morning and your room is just full of clutter, right? It's just like things are everywhere. Your drawers are here, your shoes all over the place. What we gotta understand is that when things are like that, it really is a telltale sign of where you are at in your life. It is kind of a cliche when your parents would be like, hey, clean your room. Because I don't think they really, well, I would say in general, they don't really explain it how it should be explained and how deep it goes, But yeah, if you're a creative, it's just important to look at your physical space and try to have it somewhat organized, because it all relates, right? If I organize my room, then clearly my thoughts are in the space of being organized. And when both of those are organized, so is your spirit in a kind of way, They all pull on each other. When two are the right way, when two are full, their cups are full, they pour into the other one, right? So that's super important. Another aspect of making sure you maintain space is from people, right? Making sure you just like are aware of the people who, when you're in the same room as them, they can stifle you, right? That's one of the biggest things, and that kind of talks to your spiritual and mental more so than the physical, right? But you have to be super careful with who's in your space, what they're contributing to the space. Because a lot of the times, I know as a rapper, you want to have all these people in the studio, all the women in the studio and stuff like that. And if it's not orchestrated correctly, it could really be a distraction rather than a tool for your creativity. Which kind of goes back to, I think, the number one thing that an artist should have with everything they do is intent, right? Whether good or bad, that's to be determined by the observer. But you have to have intention, because if that's the case, if you don't have intention, then somebody else is gonna have intention for you, right? And then you gotta start asking yourself, well, shit, they had intention for me. Am I really creating? And the answer to that would be no. You're not creating. You're just a vessel. So that's super important, man. Let me see. So now that I kind of described to you, physical space, I think we could probably move on to the second one, which is mental space, right? Where's your head at? What are you thinking? That kind of goes in a long line with intent, right? Where you have to make sure that your intent is what keeps you grounded. And then at that point, it's trying to empty out all the thoughts that are downloaded to you on a daily basis. Try to get those out of your head so that you can think with purity. You know, that's super important. We live in a world today where your thoughts literally are hijacked every single day. If you are on social media, your thoughts are hijacked every single day, right? So that means that, of course, the purity of your thoughts will always be poisoned, if you will, for lack of a better term. You know, like it's hard. It's easy to have group think. It's easy to go online and validate thoughts that might not be completely true. You know, it just, you felt a certain way about somebody, and you went online and you looked it up, and you seen somebody that felt the same way as you. And it's not that y'all don't have a common ground, but it also doesn't mean that you're valid for everybody, that you come across that has the same way of doing things, if that makes any sense. For example, a lot of people, they like to go online. Let's say they have a problem with women, and vice versa. If you have a problem with men, and you see a bunch of people online talking about, the same issue that you're having, right? And you think that's super valid. And it might seem like that because it's the internet, and the internet is projected to be this like large space, but in reality, it's really a micro of what's really going on in this world. That's what we got to understand. Like the little vision that we have of the world, the little peaks that we have of the world through our perspective is only one perspective, and that's super limiting. Even if it's two people, that's super limiting. Think about it. This is how I like to think about it, right? There is about 8 billion people on this planet. So if everybody in the world was just in a big circle, right? Just think about that. Everybody in the world was in a big circle. What makes you think that your perspective is the one that's the truth? Or the full version of the truth, You got to break down 100% of the truth, right? By 8 billion. That's your perspective. If we did the math, it'd be an astronomical zeros, 0.00000. You see what I'm saying? It's way too much people in this world experiencing the world at the same time for you to think that your thoughts alone is the ultimate truth. But again, that comes from having practices of purifying your mind, right? So what I like to do, I do two things. One, I like to meditate for 10 to 15 minutes straight in order to practice no action, space. I'll even try not to think about things, or I'll just let my thoughts just run through my head and become the observer. You're not trying to be active in your thoughts. You're not trying to, manipulate your thoughts. Just let your thoughts unwind. It's like a stretch. It's how I like to think about it, right? Like you gotta, whether you have an injury or not, or you just, you've been working out for the past couple of days and you need to stretch your legs. It's the same thing where you need to stretch your mind with meditation. Once your mind is loose, I might do something like go on a bike ride, right? And just be in my thoughts. Just, okay, this is what I need to do. Okay, this is how it needs to be prioritized. And then I'll even do something where I'll download new thoughts into my head that I want, right? So if I run a business, I want to do nothing but listen to books about business or read books about business to really have my mind just be where I want it to be. That's the whole purpose. But again, going back, you have to learn how to stretch the mind, get rid of those wrinkles to really create the space. Get comfortable with being by yourself, which is the main reason why I love bike riding, because it's just you. Even if you're bike riding with other people, it's just you. You know, you're the sole controller of that bike and the destiny at which it goes. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing, a beautiful tool to have. So whatever just allows you to stretch your mind. I have a friend actually. Excuse me, this train's passing by. Hold on one second. I got a friend actually who in the morning he goes to the ball court and he'll just shoot around. You know, just play. You know, just dribble around, shoot around, and just be in his thoughts. So he's working out his body, in a stimulating kind of fashion, and at the same time, he's being within his thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Instead of because you know, with music, you are actively expressing what comes to your head, and sometimes you don't need to do that. Sometimes you need to go through the thought a couple times before you let it out to the world, and doing things like that will really help you. You know. So this is kind of like the last point. It should be the longest point, right? Because it's so vast, and you could just say so much about it. But I would say the last space you need to think about is spiritual space, right? As I'm talking about it, I'm like discovering what it means in real time, you know, because it's so vast. And I guess the best way to say it is, whoever is your spiritual orientation, right? Whether you're Muslim, Christian, whether you believe in multiple gods, or whatever the case is, right? You have to create the space, right, to have a relationship with your maker. That's what you have to do. For me personally, I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe that Jesus is my Savior. And then my interpretation of that is a bit different than other Christians. You know, we don't have to get into that right now. I don't mind, but that's not the subject of this. Point being is that I constantly try to be thankful, practice gratitude. That's the biggest part of my religion, is to be grateful for everything that happens to you. Everything, good, bad, ugly, you have to be thankful. And what that does to you is that it keeps you balanced. Whether if something is so good for you and you over celebrate that and you idolize that, you're out of balance, because you don't realize that, you know, this thing that happened to you isn't necessarily all you're doing. And you have to understand that. You know, the whole world, the universe is involved in when you get a win. Just like how it's involved when you get a loss. And you have to learn to appreciate those losses and call them lessons, because if you don't, you get consumed and you end up not appreciating when you do actually win. You know, in a funny way. You really do. You disregard it because you're just so ready for another loss. You know what I'm saying? You're not really appreciating the moment that you even had. The fact that you're alive long enough to feel that loss is like, you should be grateful for. You know? So yes, like for me, when it comes to the spiritual space, that's what creates the realm for me. To be grateful all the time. And then I tend to want to share how I feel through these platforms, through what I'm doing right now, you know? I just share it because to me it's like, why should I keep it to myself? If I keep it to myself, it stays bottled up, right? It doesn't go out to the world. And that's super important for you to create space within yourself to express yourself, right? Again, what's the line of communication? The intent, and then the expression, right? That's how it goes for me. What's my intent? I want to share with the world how I'm feeling so that somebody else can relate to it and know that they're not the only one going through this, and find out different methods and perspectives as to how one person is going through it so that they can then either mirror that or they could figure that out for themselves. So that's my intent. And then the expression is how I do it through music or going on this platform right now and just talking about it. You know, just being social about it. So yeah, those are my quick points right there. I'm still on the way, you know, but I figured why not just take the time to express with y'all, you know, what I've learned and reflect. Again, please, if you like, you know, what I said or what I'm doing, just go ahead, jump on them comments, man, and just let me know how y'all doing, what y'all feeling. I'm gonna post this as soon as I get back to the house. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going. I'm gonna keep this going regardless, because I like this exercise. It's making me comfortable with expressing my thoughts. Again, you know, back in the day, they'd write on journals. Now we got social media. Now we got YouTube, you know? So, again, I'm signing out, and I'll see y'all later.